Good morning, my church family and friends. It is Monday morning. It is Labor Day. Happy Labor Day to you all. We are continuing on with our morning devotional videos as we travel through the book of Acts. So I am kicking off another week. I get the joy every week on Monday. If you've been watching these, you know that, of starting off the week each time. And so today we're going to be doing Acts chapter 27, verses 1 through 12. And again, as I usually always begin, I just want to say I hope you had a great day of worship yesterday. I hope you were able to join us either online or in person in our outdoor services. Either way, that form of connecting and connection with your community and your church family is so vital, so important, as we've learned and continue to read about in the book of Acts. So we're continuing on Paul's journey today. He is going to be setting sail for Rome in chapter 27. So I'm going to kick off this chapter, the first 12 verses here. So here we go. Chapter 27, Paul sails for Rome. When the time came, we set sail for Italy. Paul and several other prisoners were placed in the custody of a Roman officer named Julius, a captain of the imperial regiment. So we can already tell by the language here in that first sentence when it says we set sail for Italy, that most likely means that Luke, since he's the author, was the one that joined Paul on this journey. So verse 2, Aristarchus, a Macedonian from Thessalonica, was also with us. We left on a ship whose home port was Adramyttium on the northwest coast of the province of Asia. It was scheduled to make several stops at ports along the coast of the province. The next day when we docked at Sidon, Julius was very kind to Paul and let him go ashore to visit friends so they could provide for his needs. Putting out to sea from there, we encountered strong headwinds that made it difficult to keep the ship on course. So we sailed north of Cyprus between the island and the mainland. Keeping to the open sea, we passed along on the coast of Sicilia and Pamphylia, landing at Myra in the province of Lycia. Verse 6, there the commanding officer found an Egyptian ship from Alexandria that was bound for Italy, and he put us on board. We had several days of slow sailing, and after great difficulty, we finally neared Cnidus. But the wind was against us, so we sailed across Crete and along the sheltered coast of the island, past the Cape of Salmone. We struggled along the coast with great difficulty and finally arrived at Fair Havens near the town of Lasea. Lots of names of cities and towns, so I'm sure I'm butchering some of these, so I apologize for that. Verse 9, we had lost a lot of time. The weather was becoming dangerous for sea travel because it was so late in the fall, and Paul spoke to the ship's officers about it. Verse 10, men, he said, I believe there is trouble ahead if we go on, shipwreck, loss of cargo, and danger to our lives as well. But the officer in charge of the prisoners listened more to the ship's captain and the owner than to Paul. And since Fair Havens was an exposed harbor, a poor place to spend the winter, most of the crew wanted to go on to Phoenix, farther up the coast of Crete, and spend the winter there. Phoenix was a good harbor with only a southwest and northwest exposure. I'm going to leave it up to you to figure out what you think is going to come next, and that's the end of my reading today. And I believe it'll be Pastor Chad that will be taking you on the next journey of that potential shipwreck that Paul talks about. As we've seen throughout this book, this idea of I don't think we should go on, chances of shipwreck, loss of cargo, and danger to our lives, all of that was not just a hunch that Paul had, right? This was divine inspiration, right? This was a word that was given to him by God. As God has continued to guide Paul his entire journey, his entire life, we see it yet again here. And so I'm being a little facetious, but if you guess what's going to happen next, obviously there is going to be a shipwreck, and God is going to continue to guide and teach along the way. And so I love that we continue to see Paul in his life and this journey. As it gets closer to the end of his life, we see this immense trust, right? We see this huge amount of trust and faith in who God is. Because at the end of the day, Paul knows that if this is his time to go, he's going to go out serving the Lord, right? So at this point, what does he have to lose, right? I mean, he knows that he said throughout his ministry that, like, for me to die is gain, right? And so I'm going to live each and every moment, each and every day to the fullest. If I have chances to share the word with a stranger or with an officer or a captain on a ship or another sailor or somebody I come across in a prison cell, whatever it may be, like, I'm going to do that. And that was Paul's attitude all along. And so even though today's passage was another short passage that doesn't really complete the story, it's just kind of the opening to the story, I think it's so impactful that we see Paul never wavers from who God had called him to be. And so that's my takeaway for you today, is that we would be able to have that same type of faith, that we would be able to have that same type of confidence in our hope in Christ and who he is, that no matter what may happen, no matter what may come, we are going to stick to the course that God has for us, and we'll allow him to continue to guide us, and for him to give us the endurance and the strength and everything that we need along the way, because it's not by our own power, right? It's by only the power of our Creator. So I love you, friends. Thanks for tuning in today. Have a blessed Labor Day, and I will see you next week.